This is the hot topic here on Morning Kick Around. I'm Robert. He's Jason, and we're both very excited. And I think the American soccer landscape is excited in general about the ambitious plans for D1 and Pro Rel for USL. But there is something that they haven't necessarily taken care of yet, and that seems to be negotiations with their players' union. And a statement came out last week listing some demands and saying that they've been trying to bargain for over a year, haven't seen any movement. The agreement's set to expire at the end of the season, and they're getting so far as to encourage fans to block their own league on social media.
I'd like to read a little bit from this bargaining update post. So the block, the USL Championship thing is the second page of this. This was posted social media by the USL players. So just for the benefit, because we do have people who listen on a podcast, for over a year, USL Championship players have been engaged in collective bargaining with the league and its clubs. The players' goal is simple: to secure the baseline standards which every professional athlete deserves. For example, unlike other professional leagues, the USL has no mandate for employer-provided health insurance.
That's the sicker.
With the current agreement set to expire, the lack of progress at the bargaining table is disappointing and frustrating. Players are frustrated because professional soccer cannot succeed without professional standards. Safe working conditions, fair pay, and employer-provided health care are not optional. They are fundamental to player welfare, the credibility of the league, and increased fan interest and engagement. Until the league and the clubs take these concerns seriously, championship players will continue to make their frustrations visible. The players block the league on social media and invite you to support them by blocking the league too. Stand up for the players and the continued growth of the sport. Block at USL Championship. And there you can see the second screen, which is literally arrows pointing to how you block somebody on Instagram, Rod.
I gotta say, it's a little that it is kind of humorous, and I don't think I've seen this as a negotiating tactic before. But you got to say that's the fact that the call to action is to block the league. That seems like there's not a lot of leverage if that is the call to action to kind of, harm or send a message or anything like that. Because I mean, okay, so they see a couple hundred, maybe thousands potentially of people not responding or interacting with their messaging, but that's not like a huge weighty leverage tool at this point, right?
Look,
I mean, maybe that's not that point. It's not, getting a strike or work outage or anything there yet, but I guess it's a small way to show discontent, right?
Okay, but it's you're right. You're absolutely right, Rob. That this is not even close to brinksmanship. This is not even close to like we're walking off the job. And here's the problem, and this has been a problem in Major League Soccer for the entire existence of that league. And the first collective bargaining agreement in MLS happened, I think, in the early 2000s. We didn't get free agency in that league until the 2010s, the early 2010s, and it was a very restricted version of free agency. That league has taken big steps forward, but in every case, you recognized the players have very little leverage. And part of that is because of the global marketplace of soccer. So this is why the players in Major League Soccer lost their lawsuit over single entity, Frazier v. MLS, in the early days of the league, because the judge basically said, you don't have to stay in MLS. There are soccer leagues everywhere. Go play professional soccer somewhere else. Your arguments fall flat because of that. And because of that as well, again, here, the players don't have a lot of leverage. The league can say, we'll go replace you. We don't think that this is a league that turns on star players. This is the interesting part of being a second division soccer league in America. Rob, there may be very talented players in the USL, and we're watching Milan Ilowski make a difference for the Philadelphia Union after what he did for San Diego, and he comes out of the USL, and that is an advertisement for the talent that is available in the USL. And we've seen some players get sold out of the USL, and Diego Luna played in the USL. Like, there are things happening there, but this is not a league where it's like star players rule the day. There's no Son in USL. There's no Lionel Messi in USL. There are excellent players who deserve recognitions for what they do, but people can obviously make that connection and go, well, if they were better, they wouldn't be playing in the USL Championship. They'd be playing in Major League Soccer. They'd be playing in a bigger league somewhere else. So the players have very little leverage over this because, again, maybe some of them could go find jobs, but who can handle, when you make the kind of money USL Championship players do, who can handle just not working? I don't think the USL players have some big strike fund that they're sitting on, waiting to call the strike so that they can get what they want. This requires good faith on both sides. And I
Yeah.
think it's a bad look for USL that the players don't have employer mandated health insurance. It's certainly a bad look that they have engaged in negotiations for a year and gotten nowhere, right? Without knowing what the actual demands are on both sides, it's hard to really kind of take a side. But generally speaking, I'm going to look at management and go, what are you doing here? Right? If this is trying to exploit the players, as we watch them line up investment behind their plan to go D1 and Pro Rel, as Bell Tower steps in, as we talk about corporate money, private equity, all these things coming into USL. They've got 70 cities they're talking about building soccer stadiums in. They're expanding like gangbusters. That's filling up our shows, how big they're growing, how fast they're doing it. And here the players are, we can't get health insurance? The hell? What's going on there?
And to the comment, like, injuries happen all the time, any sort of athletic endeavor, but how many games have you been to where there's a serious injury? And I don't know if I've ever been to a game where at least someone doesn't, go down for an extended period of time, just maybe a knock, this, that, or the otherwise, but serious injuries happen all the time. And maybe the cost of insuring, a whole squad of players is
But
a
that's the thing.
huge
So
financial undertaking.
but here's the thing, okay? We have been talking about this recently, and you may even have seen a short on YouTube from me talking about club failure, right? And how I
Mhm.
don't like club failure. And club failure is a scourge on American soccer. And I am surrounded in this room I sit in by dead soccer club memorabilia because
You
so
might
many
need to
clubs have
shake
come
that
and
off.
gone.
You might need to shake all that off, move into the new year, shake off the dead clubs.
I mean, I've been meaning to give some stuff away, and if you're in the Discord, you can hit me up in soccer in the swap meet, and I will put your name on a list, and I will eventually get you some of my gear if you want it. But my point is, I don't want soccer clubs to die. I've asked that soccer clubs that when they launch, when people go into these endeavors, that they have a plan or at least a sense. Okay, how do we make this work? Now the problem is that running a soccer club is certainly in the beginning is not a money making operation. It is not even a break even operation. It is a money losing operation. So if you know you're going to be losing money, you're not going to be willing to go out and spend a bunch of money on. Look, you're going to be careful, right? And unfortunately, and I mean this in like, it is a tragedy, it is a travesty, it is a shame. Management often sees things like A, labor costs, and B, benefits to labor as ways to cut money, as ways to save, as ways to prevent the red ink from being darker than it already is. So that seems to be the problem here that we're having, that USL is making all this noise about growing and becoming this big player in American soccer, and we're putting all these teams into all these markets, and we're bringing in all this private money, and we're getting bigger and stronger, and yet they're not willing to do the thing that is mandate that their clubs take care of their labor, because without their labor there is no league, because I'm sure in their minds we can just go replace these players. They're second division players.
Yeah, that's a pretty brutal way, if that is really in their mindset. Maybe they don't verbalize that, but they could be thinking that in the back of their head. But that's a brutal way to think about your labor and your product at the end of the day. What we all, I mean, we all have fun, the culture around it and the community of it. But ultimately, we are there to see the players, see the teams, see the performances on the field. And if those go away, then what really is there? What
Yeah.
you got on the screen here?
So this is again, this is Marcus is pointing out that we're not talking about nobody has insurance. That's not what this is, right? It's not that they don't have a health insurance. It's that the leagues doesn't mandate it, which
Mhm.
means bigger clubs can afford it. And often, I'm sure bigger clubs are willing to do this. And again, it's sort of that, do we have enough of a group to go to the insurance companies and bargain for good rates versus smaller clubs which do not? Right. And again, this is where, not saying that USL should be single entity. Club independence is an important part of the growth of the USL. But this is where MLS actually has an advantage, right?
Oh, no
Because
doubt.
we're a single entity. We're one big company. We can go and bargain for our insurance in a way that makes economic sense for our company. And the USL doesn't operate that way, right? This again, and those details in how this is a company which has franchised out these clubs, but those clubs are individual businesses unto themselves. They're not USL properties. Does that make sense? It's more like the NFL where they operate as one unit, but sometimes they're not. Sometimes but they're by themselves. And for legal purposes, it makes all of this a little bit more complicated. I'm not going to pretend to have a deep understanding of it, Rob, certainly from a CBA perspective. But I imagine negotiating the CBA for the USL players is different than it would be for Major League Soccer's players because of that difference in how the leagues are organized.
And we're certainly going to dig deeper on this topic, but I am curious to know what like the percentage is of players that are currently being covered. You're saying some of these teams, they might have the coverage within their team, some players might have it on their own, but what percentage of players are out there hitting the field for their team, going for wins, points, goals, competing as hard as they can? Professional players, they often, don't think about their bodies and preserving their bodies the same way as we do in their day-to-day life. They use their body as a tool. And how many of these laborers are going to their job without insurance of any kind, knowing that one tackle or one challenge could, blow out their leg, break their leg? I mean, we have a commenter on here saying $10K just for rehab, let alone all the other things, and in lost wages, because I'm sure there's not a lot of guarantees in their contracts either of how long as an injured player continue to get paid.
When Riverside Grove is saying league can have league requirements for every team in the league, it's not that different than MLS. By the way, your commitment to the dollar sign on MLS Riverside Grove is admirable. I'll say
is
that.
It a 100% hit rate?
He's 100% on the dollar sign for MLS. Again, this is not to say that the league cannot mandate that its clubs provide health insurance. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is there are individual businesses here operating under the umbrella of USL, and USL is going to say everybody has to do the exact same thing. And a club like Louisville is like, yeah, sure, no problem. And a club like Monterey Bay or whoever is going to be like, how much? So again, I don't know. Again, there needs to be some sort of collective element here. Why the league is holding out on this, I don't know. And it's just one issue mentioned. Now they also mentioned fair pay, and that's always on the table. How much the players are making, and I'm not even taking a side necessarily, because at this point, what is a problem at this level too is that we have a distinct lack of reporting on all these things. Now we've reached out. Neither of us is on the USL beat day in and day out. Right. So it sounds like I'm making an excuse. Well, Jason, why don't you go report it? We are trying to do things in that area. It's just not our beat. Right. So it becomes, and we don't have a lot, like as much as I can say, oh, I'm on the radio, or I have this many years of writing about soccer. I don't have an outlet I'm reporting this on. And again, the league may not be forthcoming with this information. So this is about developing sources, and those things just don't exist in USL right now. There aren't. Occasionally you'll hear something. I know Carter Krishnaier is reporting things that he says he's heard. I don't know where he is on this deal, and we can check. And I'm not saying anybody's failed here. We just are looking for information that may not be available, Rob.
And for context, there's only been one CBA so far for the USLPA. They only were able to unionize in 2018, got their CBA in like 2021. And so this is the expiration of their very first combined bargaining agreement. And I would also say this is also huge, this whole minimum standards of increasing fair wages and insurance. This is huge in the fact of like, will USL become an attractive alternative for players that are going to college, or players that have gone to college, are good enough to become professionals, but are considering a life in the professional sports realm or in another pursuit in business or whatever? Because we lose a lot of talent to people going to places for more money outside of domestic sports.
Yeah, and this is a league that is much more tied to the American player than MLS is at this point in its history, right? And not to make direct comparisons, but Major League Soccer was heavily American in its earliest days. All of its new talent came out of the college ranks, which was almost uniformly American at that point in history.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there was some exceptions. That obviously changed as more money came into the league, because if you're looking for the best players, you're not going to look just inside the United States. The United States doesn't produce enough high-level players for MLS to reach the levels it wants. So then you're looking outside. And the USL is more in that range of okay, how much money do we have to spend? Can we go recruit players from Argentina and from Germany? In some cases, you might be able to, but in some cases, you can't. And so you are looking internally, and obviously the college system is very international at this point, Rob. So there
More
is
and more
something to
every
that,
year. More and
more
more
and more
every
every
year.
year. But just to see like how this can be and should be a place for the American player in a way that maybe Major League Soccer isn't anymore. How is that going to impact your attractiveness? And the MLS, not that they're directly competing in sort of, I don't know how to say this. There is competition here. They'll say, USL will say we're not competing directly with MLS with this new move to D1 and Pro Rel, but clearly in terms of player recruitment, you are competing on some level, right? When you have MLS has catchment areas, USL does not. So you can go sign for any USL team you want if you're a young player, and many have because they see it as a better pathway to get where they want to go than what MLS does when it locks them in to their unique system. So that's a selling point for USL that you undercut if you don't have a CBA that actually treats the players fairly.
We shall see how this all plays out as we're trying to get some guests on and dig in more to see what the state of negotiations are between USL and the Players Union. If you are watching this, haven't subscribed yet, hit the button to take it a step farther, become a member, or just tell your fans, friends, and family about your favorite new show, Morning Kick Around. And I want to say, benchmark coming up on 500,000 views for the channel. So thank you everyone
You
for
sure?
tuning
Yeah.
in.